Hello everyone, Ethys here, and as you may know, tonight the 22nd of May 2016 brought us Letter from the Producer Live Part 30, featuring Part 2 of the patch 3.3 preview, as well as a Q&A with main scenario writer Natsuko Ishikawa. Now, a lot of the content of this live letter was reiteration and elaboration on features coming in patch 3.3 that were already touched on in live letter 29, so our summary today will be even more concise than usual, which is fine by me, because it is very late at night, hence why you might notice I'm speaking soft and sultry into your ear holes right now. But all the same, if you missed the last live letter summary for some reason, I would encourage you to check it out. My notes are once again a cross-reference of Bayone's official translation, Marco's live translation, and my own observations throughout the broadcast, so kudos where it's due. Firstly, the big question and the big answer. Patch 3.3 is due to launch on the 7th of June, following a 24-hour maintenance that is required as a result of a larger number of server-wide changes being implemented for the patch. So the secret trials teased to us last time for Revenge of the Horde, or The Last Howl as it is titled in Japanese, will be the Final Steps of Faith and the Final Steps of Faith Extreme. This will feature a fight with Nidhogg of the proportions we've all been hoping for, and this will be the final boss of the Dragonsong War, which is to say that the Dragonsong War story arc will wrap up with patch 3.3, leaving 3.4 and 3.5 to get the story moving towards the next expansion. The extreme mode will be dropping weapons, although we have yet to discern what the eye level will be. Now, as a result, we will not be facing off against the second member of the Warring Triad just yet. However, we will be continuing the Warring Triad side story, and it seems that this will involve a single-player instanced confrontation with regular Van Hydras. Yoshida gave us a tour of the Aquapolis, the instance dungeon that will have a 1 in 5 chance of becoming accessible upon the completion of a time-worn dragon skin map. A portal will appear, as you can see here, and it will remain open for 10 minutes before disappearing. Time enough, I suppose, to gather a full party, although the fights within will be perfectly manageable with a light party, and having more people will influence neither the mobs nor the drops within. Inside, we'll have an eye level sync to 180. You'll open a chest in a room, fight some mobs, earn some loot, and then have an opportunity to select a door to proceed, which will have a 50-50 chance between allowing you to move to the next room and forcibly ejecting you from the dungeon. You can chain 7 rooms in total, with the further rooms yielding greater rewards, including rare minions like the baby Oppo Oppo that were previously only obtainable via particular dungeons. There will be Cyclops at various points that drop grade 4 and 5 materia, and clearing the 7th room will apparently yield a bunch of grade 5 materia as well as a 100,000 gil reward to each participating party member. Among the glamour drops are these digs that Yoshida is sporting, which appear to be appropriately inspired by Indiana Jones. Now, between the appearance and the name of the dungeon, I'm pretty convinced that these are in fact Sil'dih ruins. You might remember that it was over their precious water supplies that Ul'dah went to war with Sil'dih, so the name Aquapolis should really speak for itself. Raid Finder we talked about in depth last time, but to recap, it will be cross-server within each data center and feature optional checks for clear or progression party, early, mid, or late phase progression, and whether or not to accept players that already have their weekly clear. You will be able to queue solo or with a partial group provided that you meet the job requirements. Aim to clear parties will never double up on jobs, but progression parties can double up on the extra DPS slot just to improve queues. And finally, it will be the Raid Finder rather than the Duty Finder, which full parties will be using to enter raids from now on, but there will of course be no job or role restrictions for full parties. Yoshida wandered around the new Frontlines map, Field of Glory Shatter. Seems to be once again Grand Company locked. There are 3 capture points that operate in a similar fashion to Secure, and there are objectives that look like natural aetherites, which will appear at the beginning and offer points upon their destruction based on damage dealt. These will not respawn, however, and so they will cause a kind of shifting dynamic between the early and late game of this map. We saw our precious flower pots insert soil and seeds. Different soil types and different combinations can affect the color of the flowers. The flowers can be crafted into glamour pieces to wear in our hair, and more flower shapes and colors will be coming in the future. For Disciples of Hand and Land, new crafting gear is coming, which will be shared across all Disciple of Hand classes. They are clearly of an Ironworks design, and scripts will be needed to obtain them. The Moogle and Dragon Beast Tribe quests will be focused on crafting and gathering, much like the Ixali ones from A Realm Reborn, and provide another way to level Discipline of Hand and Land from 50 to 60. The stories will at some point reward grade 5 crafting materia, but it seems that the dailies themselves will not, at least certainly not before level 60. There will be adjustments made to make both red and blue scripts easier to obtain as shown here. Here we see some hilarious new Beast Tribe gear, and here we see some of the sets from the Weeping City of March, and they're pretty okay, I guess. Under Quality of Life changes coming in 3.3, we have our recommended gear button, and once again it will equip the highest eye level gear for your current job, but do not expect it to calculate your best in slot because it won't. We're getting our much anticipated HUD layout presets up to a maximum of 4, as well as a PvP action and point distribution preset feature. PS4 is getting a draw quality option, which will be nice and apparently have almost zero effect on frame rate. The market board will have a partial match option for when we want to search for a term that isn't necessarily at the very start of an item's name. You will be able to freely adjust the order of our party list. Idle camera will be available during combat for truly insane people. Group pose is getting some ambiguous adjustments, and there are a bunch of new auto-translate terms particularly related to things that will be useful in the raid finder. Okay, animal weapons. We will literally be feeding ether-rich items to our anima to increase its stats. You will have a secondary stat cap of 228 to play with, and be able to allocate a maximum of 120 of these into a single stat. So for example, I will personally be aiming to push 120 points into crit, and the remaining 180 into debt. There will be even more variable ways to obtain these items than we have found in previous steps. Completing the weapon will give it a new appearance and equivalent stats to another weapon with the same eye level and 3 grade 5 materia infused. Also worth noting here is that the drop rate for crystals from the Fate Grinding Anima phase at I-170 will be increased, however no changes will be made to the subsequent steps at this time. So that was the 3.3 preview part 2. The second half of the live letter featured, as I mentioned, an interview and Q&A with Natsuko Ishikawa, who has written, among others, the story and dialogue for the Coertha central portion of the 2.0 main scenario, so basically Hoshifong is her baby. The 3.2 main scenario, both the Binding Coil and Crystal Tower series, and you all know how I feel about those. The Rogue and Dark Knight quests, the Alchemist class quests, and the Matoya's Cave side quests. I'm not going to recite the entire Q&A, but we did learn a few particularly tasty details from this repartee, particularly that we are very likely to see Nero again at some point, that Lucia is very much in love with Emmerich, but he's clueless, and for those of you, I know there are many of you that have been shipping Emmerich and Estidian for a very long time. It's still unclear which team Emmerich bats for, so to speak. We will be seeing at some point, possibly in future, a quest explaining the backstory of Lucia and Livia Sas Junius. And finally, we found that the reason we don't get more meat and volume out of stories and dialogues in Final Fantasy XIV is because players want to skip through it to get to content. Not surprising. You know who you are. You know that I'm disappointed with you. Not angry, but just disappointed. Anyway, if you want to pore over the Q&A and the trials that face an MMO dialogue and scenario writer in full, check out the official forum thread linked in the description below. For announcements, the Final Fantasy XIV free trial period is being extended from a level 20 cap to level 35, so go ahead and convert some friends. We have our next seasonal event, the new Make It Rain Gold Saucer Festival, beginning on May 27. Yoshida will be at the upcoming RPC event in Cologne on the 28th and the 29th. There will be a live patch note reading during the 24-hour maintenance on June the 6th. The North America FanFest tickets will go on sale in about a month's time, so around the end of June, and the next live letter will be held at E3 sometime between the 14th and 16th of June. So even though this live letter might have felt a little lackluster in terms of meat, there's plenty to be getting excited about, but until next time, feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and thank you as always for watching.